Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out my favorite deck right now, which is Materiactor. Now if you don't know what Materiactor is, it's basically a rank 3 Xyz deck which uses normal monsters and has this cool card called Meltdown, which can add cards from your deck to your Xyz monsters as materials. And so what you try and do is you make a regular free access board with goblin bikers and full armored and Materiactor cards, and you try and get hand traps underneath all of your monsters so you can add them back to your hand on your turn and your opponent's turn to be able to use them as interruptions. And this can work really well if you get these broken hand traps like Maxi or Droll or Lancia, because some of these will just win the game on their own, and so just having the monsters is just the cherry on top. So yeah, it's a really fun deck, especially if you like a little bit of gambling, because Meltdown, it does excavate, so that's always fun. In this video we're going to look at a more pure version of Materiactor, but it's kind of hard to define variants, but we'll look at free combos and a deck profile at the end, and let's just get straight into the first combo. So for this first combo, I'm going to show what you can achieve with one Materiactor starter and one discard. Now there's two Materiactor starters, those being Gigadra and Exraptor. They both need a discard and they both achieve the same thing. So I'm just going to use Gigadra in this one. You want to normal summon Gigadra, use his effect to discard a card, and special summon any level 3 normal monster from your deck. Now the one you play will depend on your build, and this one I'm playing Chosen just because he's a psychic and then you can use emergency teleport, but I'll explain all the options later. Now once you have these two monsters, we can overlay and Xyz summon Materiactor Exegard. Now usually you want to make Exegard first. There's two reasons. The first is so that your continuous spell Meltdown can start attaching materials, because it can only attach to Materiactor Xyz. And the second is that you want the Exegard wants to have Materiactor materials underneath it, so you can use its effect to bounce, and this will be the only time you have a Materiactor material, so you want to do this first. Well, there's other ways, but this is the easiest way. Now once we have Exegard, we can use his effect, detach a material, to either special summon a Materiactor monster from the deck or add the Materiactor spell trap from the deck to the hand, and we're going to special summon Zeptowing. And also make sure that you detach a normal monster when you do this, because now we can activate Zeptowing's effect. Zeptowing will add any Materiactor card from deck to hand. We're going to add Meltdown, and then as a bonus, if you have a normal monster in the graveyard, you can special summon a normal monster from the graveyard. That's why you want to detach a normal monster. Now we added Meltdown here, and you always want to have Meltdown accessed. If you already had Meltdown, then you can search for the trap instead. And now Meltdown is quite an important card. It does two things. The first thing is whenever your Xyz monster activates its effect, you can attach the top card of your deck to a Materiactor Xyz monster you control, and that's why you want Exegard up pretty early so you can start attaching materials. And the other effect, also, by the way, this effect is not once per turn. You can use it multiple times. Whenever you activate Xyz monsters, you can attach multiple times in your turn. And the second effect is once per turn, and it excavates the top 6 cards of your deck. From the 6 cards, it can add a Materiactor card to your hand, and the rest you put on the top of the deck in any order. And then you can add back a material from a rank 3 Xyz back to your hand. Now we're gonna place it on the field, but we're not going to use its effect yet. First, we're going to Xyz summon a monster, and we're going to Xyz for Big Gabonga. Now, we are playing a tiny goblin package in this deck, just because I feel Gabonga is such a strong card. It's worth having in almost any variant. Now, on summon, we can use its effect to add a goblin monster from the deck to the hand. We're going to add Doug Charger. And since we activated an Xyz monster, now Meltdown will trigger to add the top card to Exegard. Okay, we actually got critical, that is ironic. We're not going to be able to make use of this. If you want to add back on your turn, then you're going to need an extender. If you had an extender, then you could add back this critical using Meltdown's the excavating effect. but we're not going to rely on that because that was completely RNG. Now we can use Doug Charge's effect to detach a material to special summon itself. We're going to detach the normal monster. You almost always want the normal monster in your graveyard. To special summon Doug Charger, use its effect to search a Goblin Biker spell trap. And since it's just a small package, we're just going to add the trap and that's it. We're not playing any spells or other goblins. Now at this point we can use Meltdown's effect, and how we order the cards is going to be very important. We're using this so we can add a card back to the hand from an Xyz monster, and we're going to be adding the Zeptowing. Since Zeptowing is also an extender from the hand, you can special summon it for free if you control the Materiactor card. So we're going to add it to hand, and then we can make another rank 3, and that rank 3 is going to be our Armored Xyz line, which is Torpedo, and Torpedo draws a card. And combining a draw card with Meltdown is very strong because we can order the top 6 cards however we want and put the card we want at the top and then use Torpedo to draw, and it essentially works like a prosperity for 6. So we're just going to activate Meltdown, and I'm going to explain how we go by this. If we get any Materiactors, we can add them back to hand, but that's not necessary. Now we did get Zeptowing in this case, so if this was a real game, I could add Zeptowing, and then using Meltdown's effect, I could add Critical instead, which would be really good. But I'm going to pretend we didn't hit anything important. And now we have to put order these at the top of the deck. Now the one at the top is going to be number 1. And that's going to be the one we draw with Torpedo. So the card we want the most, we want to put first. In this case, Terratop and Takatomberg are useless, so I'm going to put Imperm at the top, so we draw it. Then once we use Torpedo, Meltdown's gonna activate to attach a card, and so the second card is gonna be the card attached. So if we want Ghost Ogre to be attached, we're gonna put Ghost Ogre second, and then the rest aren't so important, but we can put Zeptowing and then the Terratops and Takatombergs. Now we can apply the additional effect to add back the Zeptowing from Gabonga. And we're not going to trigger Gabonga. Now we can special summon Zeptowing from the hand and make Torpedo to draw and go into our armored line. And since we put Imperm at top, this draw is going to get us a free Imperm. There it is. And now we can trigger Meltdown to attach the Exiguard, and this will be the second card we put, which is a Ghost Ogre. And we can get this Ghost Ogre back to hand using Exiguard's effect on the opponent's turn, which adds up to 2 cards, 2 materials back to the hand, including a Materiactor card. So I have to add at least 1, and at least 1 has to be a Materiactor. That's why we have Gigajo underneath. Then if you have a normal monster in your graveyard, which we do, you can bounce a card, and that's when your opponent summons a monster. So we can add Gigajo to the hand and Ghost Ogre on the opponent's turn to be able to use it instantaneously, which is pretty nice. Now we can overlay Torpedo into Fortress, continue our armored line. Fortress then searches the trap card by detaching Torpedo, which also will trigger Meltdown again, but now the deck is shuffled, so whatever we had at third won't matter because we searched the card. And we're going to be getting Maxi. That's very lucky. On the opponent's turn, we can add Maxi at the hand and then use it. That's one of the strengths of his deck. When you hit these really strong hand traps with Meltdown, then it can really change the game. Now, that's all we got, and that's all we're gonna do. We can set the trap and the Goblin trap. So, to explain the end board, we have Gabonga, who can attach opponent's monster. Exiguard, who, when the opponent summons, can bounce a card on the field. The Full Armor Trap, which can make Lancer, who can non-target attach a monster. And finally, the Goblin Trap, which can negate a monster in the field. And this isn't counting the potential hand traps you may get with Meltdown, which you can add to hand with Exiguard. So, it's minimum 4 interruptions, and this is the standard end board for this deck, which you should get in most combos. Now, let's move on to the second combo. Alright, in this combo, I'm going to show what you can do when you draw a Materiactor starter and a discard, but you also have Zeptowing. So in the last combo, we special summon Zeptowing from the deck, but if you hard draw Zeptowing, the combo changes because you can special summon from the hand, and there's multiple options you can do. So I'll show what you can do. We're gonna still start by normal summoning Gigadra, use the effect to special summon a normal monster, make the Exiguard, and now once you made the Exiguard, here's where you have a choice to make. You have two choices. You have basically two choices. You can either use Exiguard's effect to detach a normal monster and search Meltdown, and then special summon Zeptwing from the hand, revive the normal and continue going like that. And in that case, you can use Zeptwing to search the trap instead, which makes the board a lot better. But the issue with that combo is if you've special him from the hand, that means you can't special him from the hand later like we did in our combo, which means you're going to be one body short to make the torpedo, which means that combo only works really if you have another extender in hand, a way to get another level 3 body. Then you can do that. If you don't, then instead you can basically do the same thing as last time, use Exiguard to special summon Zeptwing from the deck, but now you have Zeptwing already in the hand, so when you get Meltdown, you don't have to add Zeptwing back to hand. You can instead add anything else useful which you got, like a hand trap or something. So that's what we're going to do in this scenario, because we don't have any extender sadly. So we're going to use Exiguard, detach for normal, and special summon Zeptwing from the deck. You use Zeptwing's effect to get Meltdown, and revive the normal. Now we can activate normal, but don't use its effect yet. Make Gabonga. Use Gabonga's effect to search Doug, all the same as last time. Which will trigger Meltdown to attach. Now this attach is important because we can actually add it back to hand since we already have the Zeptwing. So we want to get something good here. We got Gigadra, sadly that is a little bit useless since we already normal summoned. So in this case, the Zeptwing didn't really help us sadly, because we had nothing else to use, or nothing to utilize the Zeptwing with. But if you have any extender, then you can use Zeptwing to search Materiactor critical, which is very useful. But I'm just gonna play out this combo just to show what you could do. Now we can special summon Zeptwing, and then use Meltdown to reorder our deck, and then re-add a material. Now we got lucky, we hit critical off the top here, so we can add that to hand. Now we also hit Maxi, which is really nice. So the first one is going to be what we draw, the second one is going to be attached as a material, so we can put Ash Blossom, and then put whatever, isn't too important. And we can add back a material. Now there's nothing really useful sadly, but we can add Zeptwing back to hand. And from here it's the exact same. We make Torpedo, we use Torpedo to draw, we can draw the Maxi which we put on the top, which will trigger Meltdown to add the Ash Blossom to the Exiguard. Then we can overlay into Fortress, and use Fortress to get the Armor Trap. And use Meltdown for the last time to attach. We got Danger, not very useful right now. And we set the trap and the Goblin Trap. And we got lucky, we got critical, but I'm not going to include it. Now this is the same end board as last time. Now let's get into the final combo. Alright, for this final combo I'm going to show how, as long as you have some way to get a level 3 on the field and a normal level 3 on the field, you're going to be able to make some plays. Like in this hand, if I pretend I don't have Meltdown or Terratop, as long as I can find any way to get on any level 3 and any normal level 3 on the field, then I can basically full combo. So in this case, I have a Ghost Ogre, which is a level 3, and E-Telly. So I can normal summon Ghost Ogre, use E-Telly to special summon my Chosen from the deck, which is a normal. And from here, I can make Exiguard. Now, from here I can just continue like from the first combo. The only difference is that Exiguard won't naturally have a Materiactor underneath it, which means it can't use its bounce effect. Now, if you're lucky, Meltdown will hit a Materiactor from the top 6, and then you can manipulate your order so you attach it to Exiguard. But even if you don't, then you're only losing 1 bounce. You still get the Gabonga, you get the Goblin Trap, and you get the Armored Line. So it's still pretty good. I'm gonna play this out, see if we get a Materiactor. We're gonna use Exiguard, detaching the normal to special summon Zeptowing. Then use Zeptowing's effect to add, in this case I would add critical if I already have Meltdown, but I'm gonna pretend I don't have Meltdown. I'm gonna add Meltdown, and then revive the normal. Then activate the Meltdown, but don't use its effect just yet. Make a Bonga. Now my primary target here is to try and get a Materiactor underneath Exiguard. So we're gonna activate a Bonga, get Doug, which will trigger Meltdown, and if we're lucky we might get a Materiactor underneath. We got Maxi. Okay, Maxi's still pretty good. I could use Meltdown to add Maxi back instead of Zep, but then I won't get Zeptowing, so that's a choice to make. We're gonna use Doug to detach a normal and search for a trap. Now we have to use Meltdown. Hopefully we get a Materiactor so we can attach it to Exiguard, and we did, so we're good. We hit 3 even, so I can safely add 1 to hand. We can add Exiraptor, for example. And now the first one is gonna be what we draw. The second one will be attached. So we want the second one to be a Materiactor, so it will be attached to Exiguard. Well, I already have Lancia, so why not draw into Ghost Ogre and then put the Exiraptor underneath, and then the rest aren't too important. Now we can apply the effect to add back a material. We could add Maxi, but then we can't make Torpedo, so we need to add Zeptowing. If we had an extender though, we could easily add Maxi. Now we can special summon Zeptowing from the hand and XC summon into Torpedo. Then use Torpedo to draw into the Ghost Ogre we put on the top, which will trigger Meltdown to attach the Materiactor. And now we're at the exact same setup as in the first combo. Even though we had no Materiactor starters, all we used is a random hand trap and a normal monster on the field. And we achieved the same board, get the last Meltdown, and we got, what do we get, Ghost Ogre? No, Terratop, okay, whatever. Set the 2 traps, and that's the whole board. Same as last time. Now let's get straight into the deck profile. Alright, here's the deck list, and this is what I would call a pure Materiactor deck. We're not playing any other engines which do their own thing. All we have is a tiny Goblin engine, Terratop, and Dangers, which are all just useful for rank 3s in general. Let's start with the Materiactor ratios. We're playing 2 Gigadra. Gigadra is a good starter. As you saw, it does achieve the full combo, but as a card itself, it isn't the best. It has to discard a card, and it has to be on the field to use its effect, which means if your opponent has Veiler Imperm, then you discard it for no reason, and you have to use your normal summon. Plus it has that random lock on the field, which sometimes is annoying, usually not really, but sometimes just comes up. That's why I'm not playing 3 copies. We have other we have other starters like Exiraptor, and we have plenty of ways to start combos, but we want at least one to for certain combos. For example, summoning Gigadra off of Exiguard when you already use Zeptowing. Like if you use Zeptowing as a starter, then you need to be able to summon something which can continue your plays. So we're playing 2, I think 2 is fine. 3 Exiraptor. Exiraptor is the best starter we have, and it's an extender at the same time, that's why we play 3 of it. And it has a bonus effect of making your rank 3s a bit bigger, which is always nice. Then Zeptowing. Zeptowing is probably the best extender. As a starter, it doesn't do that much. It achieves something, but it's not full combo. But it really shines when it's combined with other cards. It's really good to draw. Then we're playing 3 Meltdown. I really like this card, and I want to lean into the whole Meltdown playstyle. That's why we're maxing out on it. And Meltdown does get better as you play more Materiactor cards, since it has a higher chance of hitting them, which is why I think it makes sense to play 3 of it. And even if you draw it, that means Zeptowing can search critical instead, which is always great. And if you draw multiple Meltdowns, well, its attaching effect isn't even once per turn, so it's not even that bad. And then we're playing one of a Trap, which is, you don't get it every time, but when you do get it, it's really good. For a normal monster, we're playing Chosen by the World Chalice, mainly because of its type. It's Psychic, which means we can play Emergency Teleport as a card. This card is great for starting plays, it's a great extender. It just makes your deck a lot more consistent, since Teleport combined with any level 3 in the whole deck, even if it's Ghost Ogre or Ash or Chosen itself, is essentially full combo, as we saw in the last combo. Now for the other engines, we're playing a tiny Goblin package of just 1 Dug and a Trap. Basically just more endwood pieces, that's all it is. You don't want to draw the Trap, but it's still worth it, I think. Dug can be sometimes used as an extender, but not really. Then 3 Terratop, 1 Takatomberg, just great for making rank 3s and getting your play started also. If you draw Terratop and another starter, then you can use Terratop to make Gossip Shadow instead, or SP to try and insulate your plays. We're also playing 2 Danger Tsukinoko. It's a great extender for Materiactor, since when they're discarded they revive themselves, so they're just a free body for Gigadra or Exoraptor. And they also can summon themselves from the hand, and they also draw a card. At least sometimes they'll draw a card, which works really well with a Meltdown. Then lastly we have the Full Armor Trap, which you just have to play for the armored line. You don't want to draw this ideally, it kind of messes your combos up, since if you draw the trap, that means Fortress isn't able to detach a material, and Fortress has to have no materials to be able to Xyz summon with it. Which means if you do draw the trap, you need some other way to detach Fortress's material, and the only ways would be using Dug or Meltdown to re-add them back to hand. So you can't, if you do draw it, you sometimes won't get the armored line, but sometimes you can play around it. Then for the non-engine, I just want to say that all the hand traps, they depend on the format, like Lancia here. So you can always change them up, but I will say level 3 hand traps synergize extra well with this deck, since you can use them as bodies for Xyz summons. But let's go step by step. We have 2 Maxi, obviously, 3 Ghost Ogre, mainly as a alternative teleport target, so we don't only have just Chosen, we also have other. Plus it's level 3 and it's a decent hand trap in general. 3 Ash Blossom to stop the Maxis. 2 Lancia to try and stop Malice, which is currently the best deck. 2 Callby to stop Maxis, and 3 Imperms, since it's a good hand trap. Then we can go into the extra deck. We're playing Gossip Shadow, is just there to try and stop enemy hand traps, mainly if you draw Terratop. It isn't really great as a endboard piece, since it gives the opponent a draw, but it's the only way to negate monster effects which are in the hand, so we kind of have to play it. Cicada King is similar to Gossip, but only for monsters on the field, and it doesn't give your opponent a draw, so it's a bit better to actually make. Ashura King is your OTK tool. It can attack up to the number of materials it has, but you have to make it with 3 materials, so when you do make it, it will have 3 attacks. It also gains 200 during each attack, which means it will increase a lot. And on its own, it's about 7,000 damage or so, so this combined with anything else is easily OTK. Plus it's a monster negate, which is nice. Then the armored package, Torpedo, Fortress and Lancer. Just really strong overall. Lancer equipped with Torpedo. It has really high attack, untargetable, undestructible, non-target removal. It's just a really strong card. Gabonga is also a great endboard piece, just really strong. Every turn it's gonna attach an opponent's monster. Really solid. 2 Exegard. You want 1 for your first combo, and then a second for follow-up, in case they do break your board in some way. Then Zeus is really strong in this deck. It's a good win condition, since you can get a lot of materials on Exegard using Meltdown, especially if you get multiple Meltdowns, then you can get a bunch of materials and then make a really big Zeus. Typhon is a nice card. It's not needed. You don't need to play this card, but it sometimes comes up. You can even make it with the armor trap, but I don't think I've ever done that. Then we have Imduk. Imduk's mainly there for two reasons. First of all, it's a dragon, so you can make it with Chosen and then make seals, and it's also an extra deck monster, so you can make SP. But the other reason is it unbricks a certain hand where you draw Chosen and Exraptor. Since Exraptor has to add the normal from the deck or the graveyard, so if the normal is already in your hand, you can't do that, and you just can't play the game. But with Imduk, if you normal summon Chosen, link it off for Imduk, then you can use Exraptor to add Chosen back to the hand, special summon Exraptor, and Imduk has the effect, he gives you an extra normal summon for a World Chalice monster, and Chosen is a World Chalice monster. Then you can normal summon, Chosen and continue your combo. So he's useful in that sense. Seals is a fine end board piece. You can make with 2 dragons, and all the Materiactors are dragons, so fairly easy to make. He's a link monster, so he could be a backup plan if you ever can't make an Xyz for some reason, maybe if you got debarriered. IP Masquerena is similar to Seals, just something you can make sometimes if you want to. And SP is actually useful because she's removal for any card. You have a lot of monster removal with Gabonga, with Lancer, but you don't have a lot of spell trap removal. That's why SP is quite useful. So yep, that's the whole deck. Now let's get into some ideas. Alright, for the ideas section, other normal monsters you could play. If you don't want to play Chosen, you can play Baby Dragon. It's a dragon for seals and it's a win for Takatomberg, and it has decent attack. Then Tempura is more of a meme card. If you want to gamble more, you can play it. Prima is interesting. It enables some new lines where you can draw using only the Materiactors. Plus it has a Materiactor name, so it's more useful for Zepto or Meltdown. But my issue is it's a bit fragile, being a pendulum and being a light. It's going to die to Bystials, and if your opponent tries to remove it, it's going to go to the extra deck. You can't link with it either, so kind of inconvenient. If you want to play Prima, then you're basically forced to play a second normal. And personally, I don't want to play a second normal unless it's Prima. I would just rather play a more useful card. Then Annulus is basically useless, not going to even talk about that. Melt Through is interesting. It allows you to special summon a Materiactor Xyz using only one level 3 normal as the material. However, by the time you have Melt Through, you probably already have Exiguard, and you're not going to summon a second Exiguard, and the only other Materiactor Xyz is Gigaboris, who isn't that worth it. So, also the fact that when are you going to search this over Meltdown or Critical? Just doesn't seem worth it. Until they print a new Materiactor Xyz, which magically is fantastic, then I wouldn't play this. Next we have other Goblin Traps you can play instead of Stampede, Grand Pileup and Grand Crisis. They're both pretty good. Grand Pileup can summon Crazy Beast, and it has a pretty good graveyard effect, and Grand Crisis just banishes cards. However, my main issue is that both of these, they don't detach material. The main bonus with Stampede is that it gives you a way to quickly detach the material from your Goblin. So you can trigger Gabonga, because Gabonga only activates when a material is detached from the field. And so having another way to do that is really useful. And otherwise you're just relying on Exiguard detaching, which is only when your opponent summons a monster, which isn't very reliable. Which is why I just prefer Grand Stampede over Pileup and Crisis. Then we have Nyan Nyan, Wheel Leader and Tracker, all extra psychic extenders you can play if you want. Tracker and Wheel Leader summon themselves from the hand, and Nyan Nyan can revive herself from the graveyard. Decent options of teleport. If you want to play more dangers, you can play a Danger Jackalope. It is a great extender. Then Unexpected Die and Primate Roar. If you don't want to play E-Tele or Chosen, you can, but you still want more normal summon access. But you still want more normal monster access, you can play Die or Primate Roar if you want. Then we have the Virtue Dragon and Virtue Stream. It's a great trap. It can destroy 2 cards on the field, pretty useful. But I wouldn't slide it in here since we're already playing 3 traps. So if you're playing Virtue, you're probably replacing something like armored, but I feel like the torpedo draw is too valuable to replace, so I wouldn't play Virtue. But Virtue Dragon himself is a pretty good card. He has a second effect. I mean, he has another effect which can swap materials between two XCs, which allows you to guarantee Exiguard's Materiactor material, so you can actually get his bounce. So you can just play him without even a trap if you want. Gigaboris isn't that useful. Fortune Tune is a Zeus pilot. Instead of destroying, you can detach material, so you can crash and then detach and then make Zeus, so not bad. Actually a good idea, since a lot of your XCs are a bit low attack, so if your opponent only has high level creatures, high level monsters, then Fortune Tune could come in handy. Totem Bird is an alternative to Gossip. You need 2 wins, so that's Teratop and Takatomberg. Sometimes you want a spell trap negate instead of a monster negate, so it could be useful. Downard is just an extra material for Zeus, which I don't think is that needed since Meltdown already gives you a bunch of materials. Then Magnamut, all your Materiactors are dragons, so Magnamut could be useful depending on the format. However, him being level 6 as a material, all you can do is really link them off. And lastly, Ghost Spell, Ghost Mourner are also level 3 hand traps, which are pretty good depending on the format. And that's about it for the ideas. Alright, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed. I tried to make this video shorter than the last one, but somehow I've managed to also stretch this one to over 30 minutes. I don't even know how. I thought I made shorter combos and explained less, but I think I just talked too much. I'll try better next time. Anyway, I'd really appreciate if you like and subscribed. If you have any questions, then leave them in the comments, and I'll see you next time.